Hello everyone, Sobronio G&A Reviews here, bringing you a spotlight for Chaldea's cutest Avenger, Erice. We're going to be taking a look at her skills and stats, as well as going over pointers to how to utilize her effectively, and an overall grade comparing her to how she stacks up to the other 4-star servants. And if you'd like to join us here live for servant spotlights, voice your opinions just like chat here, say hi to YouTube chat, then be sure to follow us over on Twitch or join the Discord, which will both be linked in the description down below. And while you're down there, please do give the video a like, since it really helps out the channel. Also, I want to mention, guys, thank you so much for all the feedback that you guys sent from the previous round of servant spotlights that went up. I took a look. These are still a work in progress and all of that, but I saw a lot of suggestions that you guys offered about making the spotlights more consistent and easier to get through and more planned out and thorough. So I'm implementing that feedback, and we'll just work through it together to make the spotlights a bit easier and better to, I guess, format. So if you have any pointers or tips that you want me to take into account, leave those in the comments as well. I'll be reading over them. But for now, on to Erice's stats. So let's take a look at her attack and HP. Right off the bat, she has 9,801 HP and 10,239 attack. Very high attack stat. However, especially for a 4-star, 10,000 attack for a 4-star is ridiculous. She does have incredibly low HP. In fact, she has the lowest HP stat among all the SR servants, so very squishy. She also has a star generating rate of 6% and an NP charge rate of 0.53%. So she does have average NP gain, not too bad, and pretty decent star generating as well because she has good hit counts. She has 4 hits on her quick, 3 hits on her arts, 2 hits on her buster, and 5 hits on her extra. And she has a quick arts buster deck, so a good mix of arts and quick cards with good hit counts gives her good star gen and NP gain across the board. She is a bit of a glass cannon, very offensively focused, very high attack, but like abysmal HP, so she's going to get KO'd very quickly. Moving on to her skills, she does have Dread Spirit actually moved down over here as well, and I'll put up a graphic so that you guys can read it. She has Dread Spirit Peacekeeper, rank A, which increases her arts card effectiveness for 3 turns between 20 and 30%, depending on level. She also grants herself Evasion for 2 attacks or 3 turns, and that's a 6-turn cooldown. Her second skill is Boundary towards Yomi, rank C, which inflicts Curse on all enemies, dealing 1,000 damage for 3 turns. It also grants Taunt on herself for 1 turn, and she gets a special buff on defense, so on hit, whenever she gets hit by an enemy, she decreases that enemy's defense by 10% for 3 turns. Also, this skill charges her NP gauge between 20 and 30%, depending on level. And then her last skill is Grim Reaper, rank A, which increases her own instant kill success rate for 3 turns between 60 and 120%, increases her crit damage for 3 turns between 25 and 35%, and increases her damage against servant enemies for 3 turns between 25 and 35%, all of those effects depending on level. She also has a truckload of passives. She has Avenger rank C, which increases her NP generation by 16%, but also reduces the party's debuff by 6%. Oblivion Correction rank C, which increases her crit damage by 6%. Self-Replenishment Magic EX, which charges her NP gauge by 4% every turn. Riding rank C+, if you know what I mean, which increases her own quick card effectiveness by 7%. Independent Action rank B, which increases her crit damage by 8%. And Divinity rank E, which is just a flat 100 damage bonus on all of her attacks. So, a lot of passives there. What else? Standard append skills, mana loading, extra card damage. She also has an append skill for additional Lancer damage as well. And her NP, let's talk about her NP. This chat was asking earlier. Her Noble Phantasm is Ameno Kagami no Fune. God, reading NPs on the spot is going to be so fun. Ameno Kagami no Fune, which is a single target arts attack that deals damage to one enemy with a damage modifier between 900 and 1500%, depending on level. It also deals an additional 150% bonus damage against cursed enemies, and it has an 80% chance of instant killing enemies. It also increases her arch card effectiveness by for one turn, between 10 and 30%, depending on overcharge, and that occurs before damage. So very good buff right there. As far as her Ascension mat requirements go, she is an Avenger, so pretty obnoxious. For her Ascensions, she's going to need 8 Lanterns, 8 Void Dust, 8 Chains, 8 Lamps, 8 Seashells, 8 Bloodstone Tears, 8 Magatamas, and 8 Mirrors. And then for her skills, she's going to need 8 Chains, 8 Void Dust, 10 Homunculus Babies, 10 Bloodstone Tears, 10 Seashells, 12 Magatamas, 12 Rainbow Yarns, and 12 Demonic Flames per skill. So a lot of investment for her skill leveling. Whew, chat was not in fact asking. I saw people asking. So yeah, those are all her stats. I want to actually get into what her role in the team is and how to use her. So Erice here is a single target boss killer, specifically a single target arts boss killer. You can think of her similarly to Squirtoria or Kuro in that regard. She has a ton of steroids built into her kit and a bunch of damage modifiers built into her kit that stack multiplicatively. Like she has an arts buff over here. It's 30%. She has another 10% arts buff from her NP, so 40% arts. She has an anti-servant buff, which is really, really rare, of 35%, and that stacks multiplicatively with her arts buff. And then she has that extra damage against cursed enemies of 150% from her NP. And she can actually inflict curse herself from her second skill, so she's able to basically enable her own extra damage modifier. She also can stack defense down if you let the enemy attack her, so that's good. Just keep in mind she does have low HP, so if you are going to use the strategy where you have her taunt and then have enemies attack her, be careful, because she can die really quickly. Although she does have that evasion, which gives her a little bit of extra survivability. She's also, if you notice, she doesn't have an attack buff built in, which is really interesting because that means any servant who can give her an attack buff skyrockets her damage, because that's going to stack multiplicatively with her arts and curse and anti-servant damage, and that's like by far the most common type of buff. So if you just give anyone who has charisma with her, is giving her a gigantic buff. She's basically capable of really, really high single target damage. In fact, her damage is actually on par with Jolter's if she's able to activate all of her like debuffs and anti-servant damage and all of that. So for a 4-star, her damage is bonkers, ridiculously good. She also has a bit of good defensive utility because of the evasion and the taunt. Just be careful when you use it. And she has decent NP gain and star generating, so she can also loop fairly easily from critting with her arts cards and from just naturally good NP gain. So she's not quite Kuro or Squirtoria level or Hokusai, but she can definitely loop, especially if you have Castoria teams with her. As far as skill order goes, you're going to want to level her NP charge first, then her arts buff, and then Grim Reaper last. You can also pick up mana loading first on her pen skills, and then the extra card damage after that. She doesn't really need the anti-lancer damage. Her NP also has 4 hits, so really good NP refund on there. She can spam it out pretty decently. The instant kill on her NP isn't as relevant. It's really, I mean, instant kill is a meme, so it's almost never going to come up. But at least it occurs after damage, so she can still get the NP refund from her NP. As far as the pros and the cons, she does have ridiculously high burst damage for a 4-star servant, like on par with the 5-star Avengers. As long as she can activate all of her damage mods. She's easily the best 4-star Avenger in terms of DPS. That's not saying much though, because like her competition is Gorgon and Lobo, but she blows them out of the water. She has decent defensive utility despite her low HP, so she can stick around for a bit in harder fights. And she shares a banner with Ibuki, so absolutely top tier banner that she's on. You basically get a top tier single target art servant and a top tier AoE art servant on the same banner. So excellent, excellent banner. As far as her negatives, she does have a bit of conditional damage, so a lot of her damage is tied to being anti-servant and fighting cursed enemies. If you're up against an enemy that can't be cursed, like they have debuff immunity, her damage drops significantly. If you're not fighting a servant, her damage drops significantly. So she really depends on debuffing to work really well. And her face cards are pretty weak. A lot of her damage is tied to her NP, so she's definitely an NP. She wants to be NP spamming as much as possible. Don't use her for critting or anything like that. Erice is useless against Oni since he can't be cursed. Yeah, exactly. Sounds mid. No, she's actually incredible. Incredible. She does have... I want to look up her Bond CE real quick. Her Bond CE increases the party's damage against cursed enemies by 20%. Very thematic, but not worth using because, I mean, you just kind of want to build DPS on her. Not worry about her supporting capabilities. So, don't use that. Just give her the basic arts looping NPs. Ocean Flyer, Formal Craft, Sign of a Smiling Face. Those are all good on her. Command codes that inflict curse are also really good on her, like Legendary Beast and Drowsy Bomb. Basically, she's the cursed version of Yang, where Yang wants to burn all the enemies with her command codes. You want Erice to be able to curse enemies constantly, so give her all the curse-inflicting command codes. Overall, I think she's phenomenal. I think she's an excellent single-target art servant. Way better than, outside of Luvia, I can't even think of a better 4-star art servant DPS. So, she's absolutely phenomenal for that role. If you don't have Jolter, she can easily be your go-to Avenger DPS as well. Her cons are that she does depend a lot on conditional damage and debuffing, but it's not too hard to pull that off. You can definitely pull that off against most enemies as long as they don't have debuff immunity. So, I actually also recommend Summer Murasaki with her to make enemies super susceptible to debuffs, but she shouldn't need that much help. So she gets an A+ from me. I think if you're a new player, you should definitely roll for her. She's an absolute powerhouse. She'll carry you through most of the game. She doesn't really need supports to be good. Easy to build, easy to work around. Really, really good for new players. Really good for free-to-play players because her banner is stupid stacked. You can pick up Ibuki and Erice like I did. Tons of value there. And if you're an endgame player, I don't think she's as useful because chances are you probably have Squirtoria or Vlad or someone like that or Luvia. But if you don't have a good single target arch servant, she can easily be used for endgame content. So she's pretty much worth picking up across the board. In my opinion, she's the best Summer 4-star. Oh yeah, Crimhild. Crimhild is up there as well. So yeah, Crimhild, put Crimhild and Luvia above her. Saber Hoku slams. I don't know. I guess because Saber Hoku's a free NP5. Yeah. Yeah, I guess she's a free NP5. B+? Nah, A+. A+, she's great. The fact that we're even comparing her to Saber Hokusai and Crimhild and Luvia, A+. Not S because I don't think she's quite them, but she's easily up there.